I looked again at the last video I made about the thing that went on at Manchester Airport. I made a point that was very salient in understanding what was going on. Assume everyone's telling lies. Seems that was the case in the end, wasn't it? Everyone was telling lies. The extended version of the video came out, and that's the thing with a selectively edited video going out in the first place, where they just cut the bit off where the policeman assaults the guy. Ignored what happened before. Not a story, is it? It's not very inflammatory, is it? The incident that happened before. But the incident that happened before is, in its own way, a massive clusterfuck. It's like an overzealous policeman put his female colleagues in a situation as to where they might have to fight some guy, and they were completely inequipped to actually fight any man. They were just empty uniforms. So when it's like policewoman got punched in the face, he attacked women, it's like, no. The conduct of the policeman who lost his mind actually put them in trouble. There was really no need for a fight to break out, if you ask me. So I'm like, assume everyone's lying. The so-called victim, if it wasn't a police officer who was dishing it out, which is wrong because he's a police officer, if that had been a member of the general public who did that, it'd be a matter of, well, he reaped what he sowed there, didn't he? And there's quite a lot of people still see it as that. People who are eye for an eye people, they don't understand that it's very important that the police act professionally, because when they don't, what's the point of having the police? Let's just have some like mercenary vigilantes enforcing the law. Let's have people who are judge, jury and executioner. So people put it to me, oh, have you seen the whole video? I'm like, yeah, it's even worse. It raises more questions. There's a thing that's called confirmation bias, right? Big problem on all sides. Big problem. Someone posted this thing up about Tommy Robinson on Facebook earlier on, and it's like, is he a liar? Is Tommy telling lies? And I'm like, no, he's not telling lies, but he makes all the wrong conclusions, doesn't he? Because he doesn't listen to anyone who doesn't tell him what he wants to hear. Just blanks out everyone who's not telling him he's great. Blanks out everyone who's not telling him exactly what he wants to hear. That proves him correct with his assertions. A lot of Tommy Robinson's assertions are wrong. And in essence, just driven by hatred. Seriously. He others a lot of people, and they don't like it. Muslim population of this country is sick of being othered, and they get othered by everyone. They get othered by the left, and they get othered by the right as well. The left treat them as one great big homogenous lump, and the right hold them all accountable for the acts of individual nutcases, because there's criminals and scum and crazy people of all colours, creeds, stripes, allegiances. They're everywhere, and the actions of a few people are making it so large numbers of people are vilified, punished even. But there's a serious thing going on with that, what happened in Southport. I got family in Southport. Used to visit the place quite often on my patch when I used to do the trade plate driving. I used to get to Southport quite often. There's not really that much in Southport. It's a sort of a Scouser retirement village in some regards. A bit of a very quiet sort of seaside town. There's not that much that goes on, but it's nice, but quiet. A quiet place. Most of the population of pensioners. It's a small place. So when you get idiots on Twitter saying, oh, these are the people of Southport coming itching the streets. They're not. There aren't that many people who live there. Doesn't have great big estates, doesn't have a huge population. There's people who've made their way to Southport tonight. That's gone on yesterday. You see, that's the thing. What's my sort of specialist subject? Well, it's nutters, isn't it? It's disturbed people. It's mental health. It's profound, dangerous people. I know more than most about profound, dangerous people. I haven't got certificates on the wall. I haven't got a doctorate. I haven't got a degree. But, you know, there are those in the know who would take my word for it. So, yeah, John knows what he's talking about when it comes to the most disturbed people in society. He seems to know quite a lot about it. He knows what people are capable of. I have a great deal of respect for how dangerous people can be. I look at that yesterday and I'm like, it's wrong to make political hay out of that. Why? Because that's the actions of someone who is absolutely crazy. And when I say crazy, I mean like schizophrenic. I mean like hypermania. I mean like so narcissistic that one who would like to know what it feels like to go and do an atrocity, and at the same time make it so the world stops and starts at their command just for a few minutes. And that'd be like, oh, it's very difficult to make political hay out of something like that, because let's have it right, most people out there, they can't actually face that there are people so dangerous in this world as to go out and do that. They couldn't even imagine it. So they have to attribute blame to it, and they always attribute blame to it. They say, oh, well, it's down to he's been influenced. It's down to one thing, it's down to another. It's like, you know, dangerous people can be. You know, unhinged people can be. He's not a million miles away from the local schizophrenic I used to live on the same street as, and saw him dancing in the middle of a very busy road a couple of years ago as if he was on Broadway, dancing like fucking Lionel Blair. Same guy who sometimes fantasises and plays it out that he's the manager of Manchester United. Gets to watching the football and can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. A schizophrenic who has these hypermania episodes and goes with them because it's exciting, he enjoys it. It's like, you guys out there don't know anything about the profoundly disturbed. And instead of that, because you don't know, you would decide, oh well, I'll actually change this and make it about something I do understand. So today people have been trying to make political hay out of that terrible massacre. And it'd be, well, there's a problem here. But, you know, the free society you live in, the rules of it is to say that this guy who did it isn't technically an adult. They can't give his name because he's a juvenile. He'll be sentenced and tried as an adult, but he's a juvenile, so they can't give his name out. So in not being able to give his name out, very quickly, I was reading it on the Twitter yesterday that it was that the guy had an Arab name and that he was a recent immigrant who'd arrived in the last year on a boat. There's no such information was released. And then we've got a small amount of information that says, well, he's of African descent, and he was born in Cardiff and lived in Southport. But it's like, this guy's in essence a Welshman. And then I get people who are usually quite rational people put it to me as to say, well, he's from the third world. He's going to bring his third world ways. And I'm like, anywhere in the world, if you were to put a knife out and attack a load of little girls, see what happened to you. In any country in the world, in any culture, what do you think might the reaction be? I think you would find yourself murdered. Any country in the world, there is nowhere in the world where that kind of behaviour would be seen as being kind of okay. It would be seen as radical, murderous, wicked and evil in any place in the world. I don't care how backward. It's beyond the pale behaviour. It's sick, evil, disgusting and crazy. So you just can't make that case to me as to say, well, they bring the third world ways with them. Third world ways? In what country in the world is it acceptable to do what that guy did? People reaching, asking me to provide evidence that the guy wasn't a Islamic extremist. Asking me to prove them wrong in their assertions. I'm like, you're crazy. You've lost your minds. Word gets around and it gets spread. And then the usual rebel rousers with the confirmation bias, your Tommy Robinsons, your Lawrence Foxes of this world, spreading that this guy was an Arab who arrived off a boat last year. Now, if that was true, it's like, oh God. But because that gets that reaction of, oh God, yeah, this is a problem, isn't it? This is like, oh my word, something needs to be done. Well, that piece of misinformation, just not true, it went around the world a few times. People with their confirmation bias had to believe it. Hey, they had to believe it. Because it makes them feel good about themselves. It suits their worldview. And then suddenly tonight we've got no timeline. And then there's no timeline of a chain of events of what's gone on in Southport. Southport. Idiots have descended on Southport and kicked off. It's like Southport hasn't got like, it's not like coming to Rochdale and kick off as to where you don't mess around here because there's locals who'll join in. And won't appreciate you being on their streets. Southport is not that kind of place. I'm telling you, I've been to Southport more than once. I was unlucky enough as a child to holiday in Southport. I know Southport. I've got family there. All these idiots have descended on Southport and they're saying, well, this idiot turned up with a knife to the vigil, and that's why it's kicked off. It's like, have we got a timeline for this? No one accidentally goes to Southport. Go and have a look on Google Maps and from where you live, have a look at what kind of effort it takes to get to Southport. Not exactly a great big motorway running through it. It's not off the M6 or the M1. To go to Southport, you've got to deliberately go to Southport. It's like a last part of Carl. On the very far end of the sort of very much the furthest north point of Merseyside. It's where Scousers go to retire. Scousers who've made a few quid retire in Southport. That's the kind of the place it is. It's an old place. It's full of old people. And people have descended upon that place and started pelting the local mosque. And from what we can gather, this guy who's gone about doing the killing was of Southport and had absolutely nothing to do with Islamic anything. Muslim anything. But because this misinformation got spread by so many people, again with their confirmation bias, all these so-called influencers throwing fuel straight on the fire. It's like this guy wasn't a immigrant. He was a mental patient. A very, very dangerous mental patient. And unfortunately, there's a price to be paid for our freedom in this country as to, you can't lock someone up for a crime they may commit. And nor should they be able to, because that's kind of the price of freedom. I'm not in any way saying it was, making an excuse for what someone's done that was absolutely terrible. But I'm saying too many people have decided what happened before anyone really has got an idea. And look at the mess they've made. Look at the state of it. There's a situation now where certain influencers, right, have been so wrong about this incident and have created so much fuss that they themselves could now find their way into prison and fucking deserve it for basically inciting a riot. Tommy Robinson being absolutely the worst offender. He's made himself guilty of contempt of court over the weekend deliberately and then fled the country. And they're saying, well, they arrested him on the way out to the country on terrorism charges. So, well, of course they did. Them are the powers that the border police have got. That's the only thing the border police are allowed to stop you for, unless there's a warrant out for your arrest. So they've used the laws available to have words with him on the way out of the country, and then it gets round. Tommy Robinson knows how to play the police and the system like a fiddle. Gets himself arrested. Makes it appear to be something that it's not. He's been playing people like fiddles before in the past when he's been arrested. He got busted for mortgage fraud once, didn't he? And said that they're doing me for journalism. He's committed contempt of court so many times in the past, not understanding the rules of the legal system. Press blackouts and things like that. And he apparently knows, but he's saying he doesn't know the rules, so he ends up having problems with being stupid and finding himself in contempt of court and say, I'm a journalist, I've got the right to do this. It's like, well, if you'd have said that you were just a member of the public, you wouldn't have got in trouble, but because you said you're a journalist, they have to arrest you, sir. He spins it as being, I'm a victim, and it's like, no, you're stupid. That's what you are, sir. You're stupid. You're in contempt of court over and over and over again. You'll get picked out of a crowd because there's warrants out for his arrest and say, look, I'm being victimised. No, there's warrants out for you. Why? You appear to have committed quite a lot of mortgage fraud in your time. You're a bad boy. You are a criminal, sir. And you've got absolutely no respect for the law. You're going to find yourself in locked up for contempt of court. Now, he's fled the country saying, they arrested me as a terrorist. It's like, yeah, but they let you go, didn't they? Within like 6 hours or something. They made life hard for you because you were fleeing the country. Use the powers that they have available to stop you. And suddenly, he's been arrested for terrorism. Well, it wasn't, was he? He was held. And they let him go. And then he gets to the other side of the channel, and then the next thing you know, there's this incident in Stockport, and he's put two and two together and said about doing his best to incite a mob to descend on the place. It's like, people are going to prison for that. It's going to be serious. Idiots who've turned up and joined in are going to find themselves. See, the way that not understanding how they play, Pied Piper character, Tommy Robinson, for getting people thrown in prison. He's an agent provocateur. I don't know if he works for a foreign government, but he might as well. He does a hell of a job for the Labour Party in a place like Rochdale. They use him as a poster boy. They say, you'll have to vote for us because we're the only ones who'll protect you from these far-right lunatics. He's a vote winner for the Labour Party. He has a hell of a lot to say about things that go on in Rochdale, and to my mind, he's only ever visited the place once, ever. And he's not interested in finding out what the place is, what's really gone on, what really went on. He's already decided, he already knows, he's already got his story, he's already decided, he knows already, doesn't he? Only listens to people who confirm what he already knows. And suddenly able to then trick his betters into going along with him. He's right about a lot of things, but he comes to the wrong conclusions. He doesn't get it. He makes the same mistake as the left do by treating whole communities of people like great big homogenous blobs that don't think for themselves. It's pretty insulting. But then there are others who accept it. So it's a matter of, in Southport, people have set about attacking a mosque. It's like, that guy had absolutely nothing to do with Islam. He was a nutcase. It's like, when a nutcase goes off and does something like that, it's impossible to actually blame anyone else for it. Did he have something about hating Taylor Swift? It's like, Taylor Swift is more on the hook for this than Islam. Yeah, I've got idiots on Twitter saying to me, prove us wrong. Prove us wrong. Prove that he wasn't an Islamic terrorist, hate crime, fundamentalist. Like, are you for real? Is this what we've come to now? Is this where we are? It's like, people are going to go to prison over this. And when the dust settles, it'll turn out that, you know, this guy's an absolute Fruit Loop, a dangerous maniac who likely play games like saying he doesn't remember what he did. And then he'll disappear into the prison system. And the prison system will spend years trying to make sense of it. It'll just be dumped on them. They don't ask for this. It'll just be dumped on them. And it'll be a matter of, the government will in the end turn him into a source of mind-bending and soul-destroying work for some prison psychologists who did not ask for this. It's like there's a chance he will fuck up any prison or hospital he's sent to. It'll end up costing the taxpayer millions to keep him imprisoned. The real debate should be about whether we should bring back the death penalty for people like that, and do it based on almost a Himmler-esque understanding of what's dealing with a person like that doing to the mental health of our professionals who work in the prison service. Is it actually worth keeping this guy alive to just provide a soul-destroying, draining and horrifying experience for our prison officers and psychologists? That's where you should be at. If you knew anything about disturbed people who cannot be helped, that's the thing you'd be saying. Might it be an idea for this fella to be euthanized, to be executed for his crime? I mean, to me, that's the step. That's the logical step. Not somehow pin it on the local Muslim community, and then they have their own problem with dickheads, as we well know, and they'll descend as well. There plenty of Pakistani Muslims who are up for a fight, are radicalised. It's like, there's quite a few of them happy to be rebel rousers, as we've seen. There's plenty of them waiting for an excuse to kick off, to demonstrate. It's like, you know where this ends? It's like people who've got influence need to fucking grow up and need to see themselves as being accountable, and they need to not be so quick to decide what really happened. Because otherwise, we're going to have a lot of problems down the road. It's like, what you don't know will get you in trouble.